Check 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Am I going to have to stay by that?
I can, sorry. Hang on, I'll call you right back, Craig. So I can do.
1, 2, 3. Good evening. My name is Kevin Metcalf. I'm the founder and CEO of the National Child Protection Task Force. I'm also a deputy prosecuting attorney in Washington County, Arkansas. The task force has brought together law enforcement, investigators, analysts from all over the country, here in the U.S., state, local, federal, military, and we also have international law enforcement now. We work a lot of cases. We are very specialized. We work in the cyber realm, so pretty much anything that includes a device that accesses the internet, cell phones, tablets, gaming devices, and on and on. So pretty much anything that touches the internet can be used. Our focus is on children. So we focus on missing kids, we focus on exploited kids, and trafficked kids. So within that realm, there are a lot of different things that happen. What I want to do today is to take all of the information, or a lot of the information that we learn in working these cases. So this year alone, we have worked over 1,000 cases with law enforcement from all over the world. And I'll show you a couple of examples. I was in Afghanistan in August for about a week. So I was in Afghanistan, Abu Dhabi, and then in Budapest in September for 2 weeks, training Interpol, Europol, and other international law enforcement, other investigators, training them to do what we do right here out of Arkansas. And it's not just in Arkansas. We have a team of highly skilled individuals. I've got one here with me tonight. I would bring him up, but I'll let him rest. But Larry, I'll just mention him by name. He's from Canada. He is very specialized, very technical. So he is traveling around speaking at conferences and doing some work, and he's here staying with me because we have this network. It's very likely I'll have some people from Europe coming over and staying with me, I hope. But it takes all of us. All of us have a part to play. All of us have something that we have to do in order to track down these predators. And parents have something to do. Kids have something to do. You all have to play a part. But you guys can't play your part unless we educate you on what we see all the time. So I put together something that was focused for attorneys that are working in the state, especially in the foster care system, but it applies to everybody. We have predators that are active online. We have predators that are getting through into your school system, believe it or not. We have predators that are active everywhere. You've talked to some, very likely. They're active on homework sites. They're active on subreddits. They're active on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. They're active. If it's an app, they're active on it. If it touches the internet, they're active on it. So don't fool yourself, parents, into thinking that if you have a list of apps to avoid, that's going to get you by, because it's not. So this is our why. This took me about 2 years to really get this boiled down. We imagine a world where children wake up and experience childhood. So childhood is much more important than people think about. It's a vital part of your life. If you don't have a complete childhood, you're going to grow up into an adult that is not functioning as fully as you could be or should be. And it is far more pervasive in our society than you would think. But we imagine a world where children wake up and experience childhood, feel safe wherever they are, and end each day looking forward to tomorrow. Because I can tell you there are a lot of kids that don't feel safe where they are. They don't experience childhood, and they don't look forward to tomorrow. Some of those kids are living at home with their parents right here in the U.S. So these are the things we need to think about. This is happening here. It's happening in your community. It's happening right here in Springdale, Arkansas, in Fayetteville, Rogers, Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas. It's happening. If you don't want to believe it, then you're going to increase your chances of becoming a victim or one of your family members. So this is Kyle. Do you know Kyle? Oh, Kyle Nash. You need to bring him up here to speak. You take these glasses off. Kyle, sorry, there we go. Kyle is one of the top investigators, I think, in the country. I would put him up against any investigator from any three-letter agency anywhere in cyber investigations. He is extremely good, very talented, and he's right here in Springdale. So Kyle won Officer of the Year. Boy, now I'm having technical difficulties. There we go. So he won Officer of the Year, I think it was last year. This was a case where a teenager was missing out of this community. And one of the themes that you're going to see out of these kids that I mentioned up here is the term runaway. Also, foster care is another big one. Now, what kind of kids do we care about? Well, we should care about all kids. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you practice, or if you have one at all. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care who you love or who you like or anything about that. If you're a kid, we need to protect that. We owe that to the next generation. If we don't pay attention right now to this generation, we're going to have a whole generation of damaged adults. They're going to be struggling too. We need to improve things for the next generation when they come. In this case, these were kids, foster kids, out of Afghanistan. So part of our volunteers, they're in the special operations community. So we have a lot of people in special operations and with other various backgrounds. And some of them came to me in August and said, the Taliban is taking over Afghanistan. We have orphans in Kabul, and we need to get them into the airport because we want to evacuate them. But we need help. I said, can you help? So some of us went over to Afghanistan. You probably saw this on social media tagged as the Pineapple Express. Well, it's not the Pineapple Express, that's us. That's the group I was part of. This is in Abu Dhabi after we got back from Afghanistan. So this is C-17. We worked with the UAE, the Emirates. We flew in with their military on C-17s and executed a lot of this. So we were able to assist with the evacuation of 18,000 people. We still have 3,900 people in Abu Dhabi, with a little more than 2,000 kids as part of them. So these are a couple of the operators and some of the UAE military. This is the line where they're having a medical screening. We were right there. That's the Taliban, very close. If you want to think about, these are predators. They're very close. They're very close to you, closer than you know. Most kids who are abused by somebody they know, somebody with access to that child. Could be a family member, neighbor, whatever it may be. Getting too far, huh? These are some of the guys that we worked with over there. These guys are actually military. There are some commandos that were assisting us. They would go in and bring groups out. We focused on women and children. We focused on the most vulnerable because they were the most likely to be targeted. And it's the same here. They're looking for the most vulnerable. In this one of the things I was doing was communicating with the orphanages and trying to figure out where each one of them were located, how many kids they had, if they were capable of getting those kids through the streets and to the airport. One of those I was communicating with sent me that, and apologize for any language up there, but we're dealing with the real world here. This is what the Taliban was actively doing. It's not enough that they were actually going out raping and killing people. You know, the Taliban, some of them will say, well, that wasn't us. They were just rogue people going through doing that. But they were actively pursuing, and they were texting people, contacting them on social media, sending them those messages. So I contacted our guys on the ground. I said, can you do something? She is actively running right now. They're searching for her from building to building. So they managed to go over and get her out. So this is going on in Afghanistan. It's going on all over the world where people are targeted probably because of the way she looks. You know, she's an attractive young lady, early 20s. We had parents who were handing their kids over a wall, not even knowing if the parents were going to get through. Some of the parents didn't get through, but their kids got through, and they were put on an airplane with some other Afghan families and went somewhere in the world. So now we're trying to reunite parents if they can get out of Afghanistan with these kids. A lot of these kids are here in the U.S. now. Some of them may come to Arkansas. Maybe. And this is the mom. The baby was handed over. The father got through, and the mother got through later. And we were taking her around to the various gates trying to see if she could identify her husband so we could reunite her with her husband and baby. These are just some of the kids that we worked with. That's our staging area, so we would gather these people through the night, wait on that aircraft to land, and then we would get them ready and put them on the aircraft. But in the process of doing that, we were having to check identifications because we needed to know who was who. You saw the medical checkpoint. But these are families, these are kids. And what we found out were that these Afghan families, if the families saw kids roaming around without parents, without anybody, they would just take them in. They wouldn't say a word. We ended up with kids. We don't know who their parents are or where they are or if they have any. So they were very family oriented. They would just take these kids because they knew they couldn't leave them. There was no guarantee their parents would be there to get them. So they were very caring people, very family oriented. That's us. That's my director of operations on our way back. We're trying to get some rest on the tail of a C-17. And they put everybody in these humanitarian cities and try to keep families together. Everybody got their own apartment. The Emiratis did an excellent job of taking care of these people. And this is one of my favorite pictures of the whole thing. It's one of the things I noticed, that despite the fact that these kids were going through a horrible ordeal, they had to leave whatever possessions they did have, and they probably didn't have a lot. They had to leave them behind. They had to go with their parents in the dark through the streets with these people with guns. Sometimes there's shots fired, sometimes things are happening, but they still smile at you. They still play. They still run around. They still have childhood. They still have that hope. And that's what she's got. She's getting a beef taco MRE, if you know what those are. It's a meal ready to eat, military. So, these kids are very resilient. She's still young. She's still got childhood potential ahead of her. So everybody here that's listening to me, everybody in the school, all these students are here. Some of these students are seeing their childhood slip away because there's abuse at home. There's abuse somewhere else. They're exposed to things they shouldn't be. But right now, there's still hope. We still have that. And that's what we got to focus on, saving as much as we can. This is Leon with a couple more kids. Despite everything they've been through, they still have a good attitude. They still smile. They're still polite. They're still very friendly. They're great people. Those two boys, their parents got through, or the parents got them through the gate or over the gate and into the airport, but they didn't make it. So we have a lot of kids whose parents were left behind in Afghanistan. We don't know if they're out or if they're going to get out. We don't know what's happening. So that's just a little overview of what's going on with Afghanistan. It's in the news a lot. And I want to show that because they're facing the same things that we're facing here. Theirs is a lot more obvious. They've got the Taliban closing in on them. Here it's a little bit different. You've got bad guys closing in on your kids, and you don't even see it. You can't see it. It's incredibly difficult. And I don't want parents to feel guilty or to have a panic attack because you can't see it, but you've got to be aware of it, and that's the only way you're going to be able to address this. And you're not going to do it perfectly. I don't care who you are. Every parent parents differently. And if you have two children, you got two different relationships, two different people that you have to deal with and form a relationship with. If you're a teacher, you've got, 30, 40, I don't know how many you have here. I've seen some pretty big groups, but each of those kids, you have to have a little bit different relationship, a little different influence, a little different acknowledgement and communication. So I was invited to Budapest. This is where I was training Interpol, Europol, and some international law enforcement. The focus of this training was to find people who abuse their children. Essentially, they rape their children. And they take those videos and they take those images of rape and abuse and they trade them on the dark web. And they are incredibly difficult to find. very, very difficult. And the bar is consistently being lowered. You used to have a pretty good skill set, pretty techie, in order to really hide and really take advantage of everything. Now that's changing. It takes less skill, and you can still hide from law enforcement. You can hide from investigators. But a lot of these kids that we're seeing that these people are hunting all over the world, they're being abused in their own home. They're at home every night. It's a mother, father, stepfather, foster parent, guardian, sibling, boyfriend, cousin, neighbor, something. Clergy, police officers, anybody. It could be anybody. So you really have to keep your eyes open. But one of the things when we're hunting people on the dark web is we realize that these kids are in their own home being abused. In their own home. And we find them in Arkansas. We track them down here in Arkansas, New York, California, Florida, Norway, Sweden, Brazil, Mexico. It doesn't matter. Every single country, every community has this stuff, and it's going on. It's very widespread. That's Ule is his name. He's in Sweden. He's been doing this for about 30 years. Very dedicated person. And this is just some shots of working with some of the investigators over there, learning what to do and how to do it. And the reason they have to do that is because this is so widespread. Oh, sure. Thank you. So these are some of the places that I've been asked to speak. So you can see the things that we do are being recognized nationwide. New York City, spoke at the NYPD Cyber Intelligence and Counterterrorism Conference. And what we find is that the things that we do with these cell phones, these mobile devices, it doesn't matter if you're a terrorist, it doesn't matter if you're a drug dealer or if you're a child predator. All this stuff works the same, and we can hunt you if you're using any kind of technology, if you're touching the internet. A lot of states that we work in, we work with Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, the ATF, DEA, the FBI, and the Marshal Service. They all send us cases to assist on, especially when they get stalled. And we can dig in and spend some time, and we have some highly skilled, highly specialized people who can take a look at different chunks of these cases. Some of the other, so these are some of the countries that we're working in. These countries are seeing the same thing that you're seeing right here in this community. But I'd be willing to bet most of the parents listening to this really don't know what's going on or how it's going on. But it's going on in every country that has internet access. So when I talk to attorneys, especially government attorneys or politicians, I try to push these groups right here. Missing or not. So kids are, you got two choices. They're missing or they're not missing. That's it. There are no other choices as far as I'm concerned. There are no runaways. There are no whatever else you want to call them. If they're missing or not. But believe it or not, that changes the law enforcement response. If you got a missing kid, that brings fear usually when people hear that. The child is missing. It invokes fear. Gets people stirred up. Makes helicopters fly overhead. Makes a lot of stuff happen. If you have a runaway, well, now we're kind of blaming the victim. We're shifting the blame. And the predators know this. So for a runaway, law enforcement is not responsible for finding that runaway. Parents are. Foster care. That's a whole other problem. And Missouri just got hit finally. It's only one state. Arkansas has the same problems. And Native American reservations, nothing is being done there. So reservations, foster care, and runaways are a big place that we are really focusing our efforts and trying to make a difference. So this is we were asked to come to Hawaii, or we didn't actually go to Hawaii. I wish we did, but we work virtually. Everything we do, I could do right up here on the stage. I'm just giving you one example. We had 25 kids, so the Hawaiian Attorney General's office asked us to come and help. They had 25 kids missing, or actually that are runaways out of foster care. No investigators had ever been assigned to these cases. No investigation had been done. So they gave us what they had. And I said, for us to do this, you're going to have to assign investigators to each of these children. So they did that. But there was still nothing really to start with. And the investigators, like, where do I start? Missing kids, runaways, are some of the most difficult cases to work. Not terrorism cases, not homicides, not drugs. Missing kids. Very, very difficult. Where do you start? That's one of the big questions. So we had one high priority. It was Lokalani. She was 13 at the time. So I said, all right, we don't have anything to go on. I want you to go to the foster homes. Talk to the social workers. Talk to the people that are around her. If there are cooks or people who clean the place, whoever it is that's around these kids every day, talk to them. See what they hear. See what they know. And when we did that, and this is just Lokalani, this is a 13-year-old kid in foster care in Hawaii. She's 13. I'm going to emphasize that. Well, she met her trafficker. This is her current trafficker. She's 13, remember. Met her current trafficker, Johans, in Iwa Beach. And this goes on and on. She witnessed a murder. She was involved with, this guy, Wager, picked up by Isaiah, and his bottom's name is Jessica. So Jessica is school age. She would be sitting here in this auditorium with the rest of the students. But somebody in her family, maybe even her parents, believe it or not, put her to work. You want a reward, you want recognition, you want whatever it is, you're going to recruit some of the other students around you. She's referred to as a bottom. She's a recruiter. So they knew that Isaiah, he's a trafficker. His bottom's name is Jessica. She's the one that goes out and recruits these girls. She was also trafficked by her boyfriend, Aaron, this guy. So you also have this Romeo scam going on. So when you have the Romeo scams are usually at least a decently attractive boy in school, or maybe a little bit older, will become very interested in these girls, especially the ones with low self-esteem, the ones that are easy to manipulate, or the ones that are vulnerable. That vulnerability creates this ability for them to get in and get a hold of them and manipulate and groom them to do what they want. So this is what we see happening. So this is just one child out of 25 in Hawaii. That's Johans. That is her trafficker, or at the time, that was her trafficker, this 13-year-old girl. This is who was selling her. This is who was profiting. So what we see in Missouri is that there's a failure to report missing foster kids, and that is something that we have seen nationwide for several years now. It is a huge, huge problem, and it's a problem here in Arkansas. This report found that they failed to prevent foster kids from going missing, and repeatedly failed to report these kids as missing. So what that creates are predatory networks who don't have to worry about law enforcement coming and looking for them, because these kids aren't even reported. They're just there, free to use, free to make money, and this is a billion-dollar industry. And in some of these, they found that in one instance, a child had been sex trafficked in as many as 4 states while missing. Kids are getting made prostitutes. Yes, they are. I could have told you that several years ago, but we're just now gaining the momentum that we're starting to get people to look at what we've been saying. This is a major, major problem, and it's happening right here in your community. It's happening right here in this school. When you ask, if you were to ask, pick up the phone, call Arkansas, call the state, ask them how many kids in foster care are not where they're supposed to be. And what the answer will be is, well, it's not just Arkansas. Pick any state. Call that state and ask how many kids are not where they're supposed to be in foster care. And they're going to say, we don't know. We don't track those numbers. If you were to go to Fayetteville or Springdale or Little Rock or Los Angeles or New York and ask the chief, how many vehicle thefts did you have last month? They can tell you that. If you ask them how many homicides, if you ask them how many of anything that costs money, anything that has that value, the dollar value, they can tell you what those stats are. If you ask them how many kids are missing, or how many runaways, or how many kids in foster care in their jurisdiction, they don't have a clue. They don't know anything about it. Nothing. Zero. So, what are our children facing? This is what the parents really need to know, and this is what kids need to know also. Because right now, kids have the wealth of knowledge of the universe as we have it at their fingertips on that computer, and they think that means they know everything. They also have the illusion of trust that's built by years and years of communicating over social media. There's an illusion that I can trust this person because we've talked. We know each other. Now, in this way, we're talking about the grooming process. If you're not familiar with grooming, what it refers to is this creation of an illusion of trust. And it happens in person too. You'll see this where the cousin or let's say the uncle comes over and is attracted to his preteen niece. Start buying her stuff, giving her gifts, telling her she's pretty, paying attention to her, listening to her. That's the grooming process. It also happens online. Now, we don't see a lot of white vans pulling up in parking lots, snatching children from the arms of their parents. What that's going to do is to activate the entire state, federal, military helicopter system to come find that kid, and they don't want that. What they want to do is to groom that child, to make them feel loved, to make them feel understood, to feel heard. They want them to do what they want them to do, and they want them to run away, because across this country, running away is not a crime. And because running away is not a crime, the primary responsibility for locating a runaway falls on the parent or guardian of the child. So this gives the predators free access, free time, without worrying about law enforcement coming to look for these kids because they're runaways. So in order to get here, all I have to do is to fish. It's a fishing expedition. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, eating disorder websites, runaway subreddits, anywhere where there's a vulnerability of these children, where I can get my hooks in, and I can start establishing that relationship. And I get them to run away. And once they run away and I have them, the romance will keep going for a little while, the drug use will probably start up, and there are other mechanisms of control, and then they'll start being trafficked. And what the bad guys do, what these predators do on the dark web, they have manuals. And they actively update these manuals. So every time there's a news article, every time a predator is arrested, they're looking, they're reading. They want to know what was in that search warrant. What did they ask for? Where did this guy screw up? That information goes into these manuals that everybody has access to. And this is how they improve their operational security. This is how they get better. This is how they stay just out of our reach. So the next question for parents and the question for kids is, how are these predators locating their prey? How are they finding them? Well, we're here in the South, so we have a lot of hunters. How do hunters find deer? If they're going to hunt deer, how do they find those? How do they find quail? Well, they're probably not out here, well, actually, considering where we are, I just about run over a deer every night, but for the most part, if you're hunting, you're going to go where the deer are. You're going to go where they like something, where they're going to be vulnerable and exposed. It's the same thing here. Predators are looking where the kids are going to be vulnerable and exposed. One of the things they're looking for is somebody who wants to run away. And this is easy. You're going to find recruiters on here. You're going to find predators on these subreddits. Have you seen the runaway subreddits? Have any of the teachers? No? Okay. This is something parents and teachers may want to start looking at. They have conversations on here. I'm looking for anywhere from 1 to 10 people who want to run with me. Only 12 plus, please. We can help each other. Currently living in northern Arizona. And there is an email. That is not a child. That is a predator posing as a child. There you go. Need a group to start planning. No snitches. 16-year-old female. Now this one may be a little bit more with it, a little more aware, because she's saying, I need to voice or video chat you. Looking for 13 to 19-year-olds. So what we see are these predators. They're on there too. They're posing as kids. They're building that rapport. They're building that illusion of trust. They're trying to get them to come meet them. A lot of times they'll offer a bus ticket. So sometimes we'll get a Venmo or a PayPal or a Cash App, or we'll get something that we can follow. And we've done this many times. What we also do is we follow the same predators and we try to see where all have they been. And one common theme, or one big one, is homework sites. So with COVID and the parents' natural ability not to be able to do much math after the 5th grade, homework sites become very important. And on these, you're going to see like this. This is poetry. And right here is where this guy will stick in his username. He's on Kick, so this was back in 2018. He's also very active in world languages, English, and history, and apparently he's pretty good. A lot of thanks, a lot of 5-star reviews. Please, 5-star and Kick at, that's his username, to talk more about school. So parents looking at that, probably going to just kind of glance over it, not pay much attention. And that's the whole goal here. I don't give emails, but I listed the Kick, and he's also listing an Instagram. The more stuff we have, the better. If I can have an Instagram, that's a great thing. So this is what we see, and this is what parents are not going to get. So once this predator gets your child off of this homework site where they have been building rapport, giving them answers to homework, and yes, that is a grooming process, they get them onto a private site where they have unlimited time. So, let me go back. One thing parents really need to focus on, and I'm not saying you should never do it. I am not in favor of spyware. I'm not in favor of taking your kid's phone all the time and searching all the messages. That's fine when they're little. But you start doing that to your 14, 15, 16, or 17-year-old, and pretty soon you're going to find there is no trust. And they're probably going to have a secondary phone somewhere that you don't know about that's got their real conversations on it. So this relationship is focused on the device. The relationship never really develops. We never really learn to listen. And this is something I still struggle with. As a father, it's not easy to listen and understand that emotional side, but we have to try. We have to keep trying to move forward, trying to advance, trying to improve ourselves. So what we see are these people, and this is a fishing expedition, they listen. They learn how to listen. It's a game for them. They don't really care about these kids. They care about that money. And that's their motivation. Parents are sometimes emotionally strung up because they do care about their kids. And they think they know what the best thing to do is. They think they know the best course of action. These people, their only goal is to get those kids away. So, hi Liz, how are you? What type of food do you like? They listen. They ask and they listen. What classes are you taking? And they listen and they respond. My parents and college counselor are all making decisions, and I'm sort of floating along like... So what she's saying is that her parents and the college counselors and all these other people are making decisions for her. She doesn't feel listened to. She doesn't feel like her opinion is important. But you know what? To this predator, they're going to make her feel like she is the most important thing. I see college as a way to get away from them to some degree. And yeah, it's normal. There's that normal gap. And then the talk of sex often starts off innocently enough. It'll start off very light. And then the heat will turn up over a period of weeks. And in this, then you want to isolate them. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell your friends and family. So we're going to isolate you from your family, your parents, your friends. We don't want you telling them what's going on. We want to start isolating. None of those people understand you. We do. And this is an actual conversation, by the way. How about to come for a visit next week just to clear your head? Hi, January. How old are you? Remember the hi, Liz, how are you? Hi, January. Hi, Katie. And on and on and on. And this is a section from page 5,229 to 5,424. All of those are potential victims. Hi, how are you? I'm interested. It's a fishing expedition, and they get the numbers. This is a $1 billion industry. So for every victim that we see multiple predators. For every predator that we look at, we see multiple victims. It's a spider web. It never ends, on and on and on. And it's also in other countries. We have predators right here in the U.S. Matter of fact, we have one in northwest Arkansas that just was arrested. They called me. I made some comments on the news last night on it. But he was an illegal alien, brought over another 16-year-old girl, took her documents, and was trafficking her right out of the house he was living in. I think that was here in Springdale, by the way. So do you have a passport? They can help you. They also have airline points where they can help you get a flight. So we're seeing this a lot. That's in Africa. And there's that girl. So trafficking. This is on Facebook. It's out in the open, or it was. If you can see this, this is a clothing company, Raw Talent. But if you look at the comments of these people, there's no discussion over what size do you have that in. What color have you got that in? Nothing like that. Such a beautiful young lady. And over here, it looks delicious. Gorgeous, sexy lady. This is on the open in Facebook. If you were to go to this at that time, this is what you would have seen. And then you'll see this girl, which, again, I apologize for the language, but we live in the real world. She looks to be about 12. And that comment is horribly, horribly inappropriate for these adults to be talking about. But this is right here. And believe it or not, this actually tied into Arkansas and into Oklahoma and a few other states. So yes, this is going on right here. So these are sex ads. So the human trafficking side. The exploitation is the trading of these rape videos on the dark web. It's a currency in and of itself. But if you're going to traffic, if you're going to sell a child, or if you're going to sell a person, you have to advertise them. And in this one, this is a suspected juvenile. And as you see right here, where I was looking in these states, 3.2 million suspected juveniles are being advertised for sex. Northwest Arkansas included. It is a hub on one of these, and yes, there are ads right here in this community. I won't spend much time on this. This is dark web. It's very disturbing. There are no images, but you'll find people with the name Rapey Daddy, which is bad enough. We need to move on. So, Toddlers Amuse. I'm not going to go into that one, or that one, or that. We'll just go through this. Alice in Wonderland, which is a pedo mom and daughter site. So there are mothers out here who have daughters, and they're looking for people in their community to trade with, to have experiences with. Yes, this does happen. Parent and daughter, father and daughter, more fathers and daughters. Some of them are not too far from here. One of them actually was in Arkansas, probably 45 minutes to an hour from where we're standing right now, or where I'm standing right now. So criminal networks, they're constantly adapting. They learn to hide very well. They learn to stay just out of our reach. And they hunt in plain sight. You probably see them quite a bit. Look at what we have with the clergy here in the U.S. Southern Baptist organization, the Catholic organization, the problems they've dealt with. And why is that? Well, anytime you get a community where kids are gathered into one spot, like the Boy Scouts, it's just going to be a super attractive place for these people to go. It's a hunting ground. And these people look decent. They look great on the outside. But when you look at what they do, it's a whole different story. And I'll run through this pretty quick. Some of this stuff, they target kids at disadvantage. So this is a special needs teenager. And I see these a lot. Special needs teenagers are at extreme risk. They can be groomed very easily. This is just us tracking that person. I was talking to these attorneys about some of the things, and that was some suggestions there for the foster care. So that was kind of a quick run through. I want to turn off this PowerPoint for a minute and just leave you with some thoughts. So for the kids, be aware that when somebody is contacting you, boys especially, I got a lot of teenage boys that think they are just, and I remember it, you're going to live forever, you're invincible, you're not vulnerable to anything. But what we see are these very attractive women on Facebook or Instagram or some other place that are reaching out saying, hey, I want to be your friend. Can we talk in private? And it goes from there into convincing these boys to do something on video, on camera. That activity is captured. Next thing that these boys see is a copy of that video that they receive in their email along with their friends list and the family that they've identified. So they've done their own investigation into this person, and they'll say, if you don't want this sent to all of your friends and all of your family, send me $2,000 right now. So, and in some cases, they just go ahead and expose these things, but that's a quick way of getting yourself into trouble. Do not send anything out over text, over social media. Do not send anything of you, of a personal nature especially, to anybody, anywhere. So we have a lot of ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends who have compromising videos, compromising pictures, who are now mad at their ex and have no problem sending that out, distributing that to everybody. So keep that in mind. Once you get rid of a picture, once you send it, you no longer have any control over it. Parents, stop paying so much attention to the device. Pay attention to your child. And this is a constant struggle because no two children are the same. No two parents are the same. But you've got to keep trying. So build a relationship. And I think this is something I'm looking into developing more because it's needed. A lot of parents need more training, more awareness. So try to find that on your own. But also try to find out about your child. Look at these conversations these predators are having. Do you listen to your kid about school? I know for me and for a lot of other guys that I know, a lot of other dads, we're listening because we want to tell our kid how they're wrong and what they need to do and how they need to fix it. We're not listening to understand. So as Stephen Covey said, listen first to understand. And I think that's something very, very valuable, and it's something everybody struggles with. I know I still do. Any questions I need to address? Oh man, that's a really, really good question. So if you look at some of the really influential people in technology, like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, if I remember right, some of these people did not allow their own children to have technology until they were much older. I think we should really pay attention to that. But is that realistic for most of us? You know, for me, when I was working in counterterrorism, I was out of the country a lot, and I was a single dad. So my kids, my girls had a phone, a cell phone, all the time. If they were with a babysitter, they'd better have that with them, because if I call, or they want to call me and I'm in another country, I want to make sure I can communicate. And for me, it was a big safety feature. So I also wanted to be able to pull that up and say, all right, where's the phone? Also, if you know your kids, I think if they get to driving age, that's definitely a time when they're going to need one. But this is something each parent and each person is going to have to address on their own. I don't have a good answer for that, but I treat it like driving. So if you're going to drive a car, we take our kids into a parking lot, let's say, and we let them drive around. Once they get that parking lot down, they can control that car. We take them out on the side streets. Once they get the side streets okay, they get stop signs, they can turn. They don't panic when a car's coming at them. We take them out maybe on a little busier street, and we keep moving up. If we take them out on a major highway and they panic and they run off the road, well, we go back. But if they don't have that problem, we never go back. They don't make those mistakes. And I think technology is going to be kind of the same way. We have to raise our kids to be aware that there are predators out here, that they can do things on that device that we're never going to see and never going to know about. We have to educate them so they're prepared for that. And they really never will be prepared. But we need to let them know you've got a safe place to come. If somebody gets a picture of you and they threaten you with it, it's okay to come to me. It's okay to come and tell me about it. And we also need to encourage our parents to talk openly about sex with the kids. If they don't, somebody is going to. I promise you that. So I mean, that's kind of just my personal view. If I got Larry up here, he'd probably have something different, and I would expect him to. If you got some of the other people I work with, everybody's going to have a little bit different perspective on it. But each parent's going to have to work through that. But if they have questions, they can always reach out. Okay, foster care is it's a collection of kids that are, and I know there are good people running that program. There are really good foster parents, but there are also bad foster parents, just like there are bad natural parents. The foster care system, however, is underfunded, I think, under-resourced, understaffed. We have more kids than we really can interact with and form relationships with. And when we place those kids and they run away, it's frustrating. And it's so easy to say, oh, they're going to run away, they'll be back when they get tired. And we just leave it. That child very likely has been groomed. Or within 48 hours of running away, they're going to come in contact with a recruiter, with a predator, with somebody who has bad intent for them, and who's going to make money off them, who's going to get them under their control. You need a place to stay, some food, come on over here. I'll give you a place to stay. They're going to develop that relationship. So foster care just makes it easier. It's bad enough when you have a runaway that has parents that care about them. But when you have foster care, you don't really have that parent. You don't have that guardian who has that real strong tie to that child. You may have some people with good intent, but when it comes right down to it, those kids are free game. Once they're out of that foster home or foster house, whatever it may be, they're easy prey. And this would take us a long time. But what the point is, there's no real accountability. And as I said, the foster care system is underfunded, understaffed, undertrained, under-resourced. So they're fighting against this big thing. They're tired. It's frustrating. And these kids go missing, and they're just gone. There's no accountability for it. Anything else? Sure. Okay, well, if you guys have any questions, you've got my email, you got my number, just contact me, let me know. You've also got Kyle. I'll volunteer him for whatever you want. He'll come by here and talk. What's that? Yes, I will do that. We'll see him tonight, actually. All right, well, thank you.